Part 20 of 25. I Dreamt of Puppies. From Good Little Boys Go to Heaven by Stukin. Fall 1962, East Texas. Emily called to tell me that Pup was back in town. Pup is my son. He left this county 6 years ago, and I haven't seen or heard from him since. He said he was headed for Houston, but I'm not sure if he made it. Emily, his friend, girlfriend, or neither, never mentioned to me that she had seen or heard from him since during those 6 years. Then again, I have no reason to think she would have told me if he had been keeping in touch with her or if he had been back to see her. I see Emily at the motel regularly, and I haven't seen any sign of him. I own the motel and Emily manages them. I've gone by primarily to see that Emily and her sister were doing all right. I hope she realized that I was only trying to look after her and her sister and Pup's dead. That wouldn't mean she would have felt any obligation to tell me if she had seen or heard from him. He never mentioned her to me, so I've been taking her word for it that she and Pup knew each other. Now she says he's back. She never said his name or referred to him in any other way while he was gone. I only remember her saying Pup's name, Joey, to me once, and that was when she came to me when Pup, or Joey, was leaving East County. 6 years. I'd given up hope that he would return some time ago. Still, I thought about him daily, my life with him and his mother. And I'm not sure I'm happy he's back. I'm not sure I should try to see him. He's been back for weeks and has not contacted me. But Emily deemed it necessary to tell me he was back. Maybe it asked her to pass this news on to me. 6 years, a few weeks, and now Emily. As best I can remember, I started dreaming about Pup the night he told me he was leaving. Then I began dreaming of him every night that I lay down sober. That wasn't many nights, granted, but the dreams came whenever I was able to dream. We'd go down to the river where I taught him to swim. The only boy I ever saw take to water the way he did was my brother Jack, but that was only in my dreams. I dream about picnics his mama, he and I took. His mama and I would lie on the grass watching him play with the little dog I bought for him, but that was only in my dreams. I don't know why this is what I dreamt. None of it could have ever been lived. My dreams, wishes only caused me to drink more. Dreams lasted for 2 years. They ceased to come as I began to drink more. I ceased to dream about anything. Going to bed drunk might have robbed me of my dreams. That's what I've been told drinking can do. But that's good. Since the dream stopped, I've spent a good portion of my waking hours talking to him, even though I've known he wasn't there. Still, I've talked, and different from when he was here, he talked back. I think my talking to him stopped me from dreaming about him. I can control what's said when I'm awake, so I'd much rather see him then, even if he isn't there to be seen, drinking, talking to someone who isn't there. In the last dream I remembered having, Pup and his mama were walking through a field hand in hand. They both appeared to be happy. I was nowhere in the dream, but they both seemed to be happy. That's how I'd like to remember them both. And know that is not the way they were. That was shortly before I started my conversations with Pup, who I knew wasn't there. I woke following my last dream of Pup and his mother and lay in bed, trying to understand what I felt. I dragged myself out of bed and into the den, sat down in my easy chair and said, I'm so sorry, Pup. I'm so sorry. My daughter heard me. She came into the room and saw that I was alone. She said she thought she heard me talking to someone. I just smiled and shook my head. I'm not really sure I dreamt any of this. I don't know why I never dreamed of him before he decided to leave here. And now he's back, and I'm not sure I want to see him. He has no interest in seeing me. He could have come here if he wished, but he didn't. I think Emily said he's been in town for about a week. I haven't heard from him. I hadn't seen or heard from Emily in a while either. I used to go by regularly to see how she and Jewel were making out. The motel I own and she runs is still losing money regularly, but not enough to draw any reaction from me. I thought it might be nice to see her again. I decided to go by and visit a few memories as well. The motel was in fine shape from the outside appearance. At least they hadn't burned down. There were a couple of cars parked in front of the rooms. One I recognized as belonging to Jim Grant, the town sheriff. I didn't really give a second thought as to why he would be staying at the motel. I pulled up in front of the office and sat there in my car. I opened a bottle of whiskey and took a swallow. I got out with the bottle in hand. I went up to the office door, turned the knob, and pushed the door open. There wasn't anyone in sight. I entered the office and walked over to the counter. Hey, I shouted. The room Emily slept in was in the back of the office. I thought maybe she was there. I got no answer. I went back out front and took a a good look around and saw no one. I sat down on the steps that led into the office and opened the bottle. I was about halfway through the bottle when I looked up to see them walking toward me. Pup, Emily, and Jewel were carrying groceries they'd bought in town. Pup nodded his greeting to me. I heard you were back in town. Thought I'd come by to see what kind of shape you're in. You look to be doing well. Put on about 15 or 20 pounds. How have you been? I asked while reaching out my hand for him to shake. He said, taking my hand to shake, I've been doing good. Had a few rough times, but I'm doing great now. You have time to sit and talk for a while? He nodded his head. He handed the groceries he was carrying to Emily, who grudgingly took them. You drink? I asked, holding the bottle out to him. He took it and took a swallow. It was a good swallow, like he really enjoyed a good drink. That made me smile. He passed the bottle back and I took another drink. We passed the bottle back and forth between us, not saying much of anything until the bottle was empty. I got up, went to my car, and retrieved another bottle. I went back to the steps, opened the bottle, and held it out to him to take a drink. He smiled and shook his head. He said he'd had enough. He'd only drunk about 1/4 of the first bottle, but that was all right. I asked him if they had a room I could stay in for the night. He said they did and led me over to a room. He used one good, well-placed kick as a key to open the door. I just smiled and walked in past him. The next morning, I woke up just a little before sunrise, and as I normally do, I walked out of the room and lit a cigar. I sat down just to the side of the door and rested my head back against the wall. I heard a voice I recognized. You got one of those you can spare? Said the sheriff. Yeah, here you go, I answered, pulling one from my pocket. How long have you been staying here? Just a few days. I need to get away from that son of mine for a few days, and it didn't seem appropriate to ask him to leave. You got a young girl of your own. You'll understand what I mean soon enough. You making any money off these motels? There doesn't seem to be much business that comes this way. That color girl running things here? I've been here a couple of times, and she seems to be running things. His wife died giving birth to the son he was hiding from, and I'm sure it weighed on him quite a bit to raise a child on his own. I accepted his logic for staying at the motel as reasonable. Like you said, there isn't much business that comes this way. This motel practically runs itself. I come by to check on the books. I make sure every penny is accounted for. The girl works for next to nothing. That's why she's here. He must have still been half asleep. It quickly occurred to me that I was trying to explain myself, my business, and my actions to this son of a bitch. Without saying another word to him, I got up and went back inside. See you later, I heard from behind as I shut the door. I lay back down and in a few minutes had dozed off. I slept until about 11 or 12. When I went outside, I looked for the sheriff's car and saw that it was gone. I was happy not to have to see his fat face again. I went over to the office and found Pup sitting inside, talking with Emily's little sister. When I walked in, she got up and left. I mentioned that Pup was looking pretty rough. He laughed and said he thought maybe he was a little hungover. I said my goodbyes and left. I spent much of the day thinking about the evening Pup and I had just spent. That was the kind of evening fathers and sons are supposed to spend, not so much because of the drinking, but because of the good feelings that passed between us. I'm not sure that if I didn't feel different, I'd say it was a pretty good evening for him as well. It was about supper time when I arrived. I called Emily and told her to expect me for dinner. It was an interesting meal, to say the least. Jules sat and stared at me the entire time. Emily was a perfectly gracious hostess. Papa and I talked about music. I had a bit of trouble finding work in Houston because all I knew was country music. Colored folks didn't play country music there. He laughed. I felt like a fish out of water. We had steak and potatoes. After eating, Pup and I resumed our places on the steps in front of the rental office. It had been a long time since we had broken bread together, a lot longer than just the 6 years he had been gone. The only memories I have of us eating together were from when he was just a small boy. I got a bottle from my car and opened it. Pup did a pretty good job of keeping up with me drink for drink till the bottle was dead. I motioned to ask if he wanted more. He nodded his head. What else did you do in Houston? 6 years is a long time to go without a woman. He got my meaning. He looked around before looking back at me and nodding his head yes. He looked around again to make sure we were perfectly alone and then spoke. I had bad luck with a couple of women, I think. I think that's the best way to put it. I was never sure what they wanted. I never could see that I had anything to offer them. I kept pushing them away while at the same time trying to pull them closer. I guess that's not bad luck. They were fine, but they weren't Emily. Every bad minute in Houston made me wish I had Emily with me. I finally started missing her so bad I had to come back. It took him 6 years to start missing her enough to return. That seemed like an awfully long time to me. I didn't say anything to him about it. It seemed to me that maybe wasn't just Emily he was missing. Maybe he was missing his life here, and he'd come back to reclaim it. He was still a young fellow. I'm not sure he knew what he was missing. I'm not sure he knew what he was coming back to. He didn't really seem too upset about his misfortunes with women. Seemed kind of amused by the incidents in Houston. It made me smile to listen to him talk. I just shook my head at hearing him tell of a woman he knew who sold his guitar as if it were her own. His guitar was going to be provide him with a means of making a living. Maybe losing that guitar was the last straw. He said he left the city shortly after. Maybe he always saw himself coming back here, coming back to Emily, coming back home. But after 6 years, I stayed in this hotel for a short while after I got to Houston. I met this good man who offered me a room in the home he and his wife had. I was making decent money between my guitar and my broom. I was saving a bit, but a bit is never enough to make a man feel comfortable, he said with a laugh. Women, though, they kept getting their hands in my pockets. Finally, one got her hands on my guitar. Emily and Jewel came out front. Emily said something to Pup about going to bed. He put her off for a little while. She looked at me, gave me a head nod, then went inside. What are you planning on doing now you're back? I'm not planning on doing anything but leaving. I just came back for Emily and to check on my mama's grave. If Emily's willing, I'm going to leave. I'm going to give Houston another try. Maybe try my music again, or get a proper job, maybe. I nodded my head, making an effort to conceal my disappointment. My head was spinning from all the alcohol. I should have just gone home, but I didn't. I know the children leave home all the time, but I still couldn't just let him go. It was his lack of any feelings for me that drove me crazy. I probably could have said goodbye more easily if he'd only once embraced me as his father. If I didn't have this fear that each time I saw him might be the last time I ever saw him, I don't think his leaving would have moved me so. I dreamt of puppies. I meant, I dreamt of you, pup. You and your mama. The two of you were walking hand in hand through a field. You were both happy. I guess I robbed you both and your mama of that happiness. I'm sorry, pup. I can never say what it was that tied your mama to me, but I loved her. He sat quietly, not saying anything. I tried to remember more of my dreams. I was too drunk. Instead, I asked him to share his dreams with me. I don't know that I really ever had much in the way of dreams. What I've had seems to escape me when I awake. The only one I really saw was in clearness with my mom and me. We're in the shack we shared. The shack is on fire. We scream out for help, but no one comes. Of course, that's only a dream. Doesn't mean anything in the light of day. That sounds like a frightening dream. Shack is on fire. Is that how the dream ends? With you screaming for help? Yeah, I used to wake up in a cold sweat from it, but I got past it. It's a funny thing about dreams, how some can stay with you, while others just disappear when you awake. I guess we remember the ones that have some significance to us. But why would we have dreams that have no significance to us? But like you said, none of them mean anything in the light of day. I guess I'm just talking in circles. I finished with a smile. I've had a few other dreams I can remember a little about. I can still see the look on Emily's face when I told her I was leaving East County. I see that look in my dreams, and I see it when I'm awake, except it seems so much sadder in my dreams. I don't remember ever dreaming about my mama when she was alive, other than the one about the burning shack. No dreams of her being happy, loving towards me, or her as a person at all. Just that horrible look on her face when she realizes that neither of us can escape that burning shack. Dreams aren't real, I know, but sitting talking with Pup seemed like a dream. It didn't seem real. I hope that when I wake up, I can see things clearly. Until then, I'm forced to dream of puppies. That's it.